Hello and welcome to Gregory Makes. In May 2021 we travelled to the length of Great Britain from Kent to Fort William to have a week on the Caledonian Canal. With COVID restrictions lifting but still present, we had pared down our crew to 2 couples. Whilst we all enjoyed having more space, as you can see from my boat tour video, it did leave us with some men down when it came to negotiating the locks. It was an amazing trip with jaw-dropping scenery. Join us as we explored Loch Ness, Loch Oich and Loch Lochy along the Caledonian Canal. We drove all the way up through England into Scotland, where the landscape became ever more dramatic. Hills rolled into mountains that were hugged by clouds and highlighted in places by snow. The road seemed to climb from flat waterlogged plains into the highlands. The journey by car gave a taste of what dramatic scenes were to come when we got onto the water. Having driven so far and not knowing when we may be back, we took the opportunity to visit the Glenfinnan Viaduct, a graceful bit of architecture but made famous by the Harry Potter films. We were lucky to be there when the old steam train went over it. There is a path that winds under and steps which take you up to look over it, with several vantage points. It was misty and drizzly when we were there, however the visibility was good. I can only imagine how stunning it would be to see it on a bright sunny day. We checked in, and 3 hours after the boat was made ready. The volunteered captain and first mate were given instructions on how to manage the boat and quite literally shown the ropes. Since most of the day was taken up waiting for the boat to be ready, our first day's voyage was very short. We did our first lock, managed by a very helpful lock keeper, and then moored up for the night. The next morning we had to leave early as they were dredging the canal, so we needed to make it through before they closed that stretch of the waterway. We were keen to make some progress, so we didn't mind the early start. The canal feels closed in, with the tall trees on each bank and the small sailing boats moored up along the side. This would be soon to change and show in strong contrast with the logs that we would soon be on. Sighting a bridge up ahead, we prepared to moor up. The bridge keeper, anticipating our intentions, closed the road and swung the bridge on its pivot to make the way clear for us. Looking back at the bridge, I couldn't help but feel a little bit guilty for making all that traffic on either side. The next bridge that we came to was high enough that we could just about get under it without the bridge keeper having to close the road. To get onto Loch Ness, we first had to negotiate several lock gates that stepped down into Fort Augustus. The weather was not on our side and it made for a drizzly journey that took about an hour to get from the first gate to the last. You're not allowed to run your engine in the locks. Instead, it must be pulled by a person dragging the boat at the back and steering by someone pulling the boat at the front. In Fort Augustus, this is an attraction and you can't help but feel that you're very much on show. Luckily, the lock keepers are confident, running the show, keeping the observers off the gates when they open and close them. After the gates, we moored up, dried off and went to explore before we embarked into Loch Ness. Loch Ness is vast. Covering an area of 22 square miles, it is a giant landscape. I don't believe there is a speed limit on the loch, but we took it nice and slow so as to enjoy the scenery and avoid listening to a roaring engine. The surface of the water was butter smooth, showing a mirroring of the sky. Enjoy this time lapse of the crossing. It rained for a little while, but lightly, allowing us to relax and enjoy the experience. With the ruins of Urquhart Castle on our left, we were close to our mooring point. This castle shows its wear following conflict from its 500 years as a medieval fortress. Passed between the hands of the English and the Scots during the Wars of Independence, then as a royal castle where it was raided and then finally abandoned in the 17th century. It's now a popular tourist spot and was well explored when we passed it. The next morning we turned back on ourselves and had the most beautiful day under the full sun back across Loch Ness to Fort Augustus. As you can see, the weather was far better, and all of us relaxed on the sun deck and caught the sun. We moored up at Fort Augustus till it was our turn to do the lock gates. You'll see me in the cream jumper since it was my turn to pull and steer the boat. Then we went straight on our way, back up the Caledonian Canal. Only 2 locks and an open swing bridge stood between Fort Augustus and Loch Oich. The wind was picking up and we wanted to choose a sheltered location for us to spend the night. There was a very limited amount of locations which you can moor up. The first we glanced up and decided it was too exposed and headed back to a more sheltered area. It was most fortunate too, since we discovered a beautiful setting which was a magical place to dine and watch the sun go down. Beside the mooring point was another ruin of a castle. Feeling like a fairy tale, a wooded path led down to the water's edge where an abandoned boat lay half submerged in the water. At this time of day, there is so much light that the whole area just seemed to sparkle, and the water was just so deep and clear. The next morning we headed back to the boatyard, but continued on to take a look at Loch Lochy, to see as much as we could before we had to hand the boat back. That's returning to the boatyard. Upon returning the boat, we took our things back to shore, and the boatyard checked our engine miles and charged us anything we went over. It was a stunning, picturesque experience. If you get the opportunity to visit, I would highly recommend that you take it. If you haven't already seen it, then take a look at the boat tour video, which I will link in the description below. If you liked sharing this adventure with me, please let me know what you liked most, or ask any questions in the comments below. It always helps the channel if you'd like to subscribe to see what else I upload. Thank you for watching.